Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. In today's video, I'm doing some Christmas bells in two different styles. To begin, I'm going to prime two of these plastic bells with Paint Couture's 2-in-1 primer in white. I'm going to be applying the primer with a sponge. This is obviously going to minimize any look of brush strokes. It'll give it a much smoother look. I picked up these bells from a dollar store here in Australia, and I knew they would be a great blank canvas. After painting the inside and outside of these bells with two coats, I'm now using this mold that I picked up online. I'll be sure to link it in the comments. I'm going to dust it first with some cornstarch, and then I'm going to use my Dust air dry clay. I'm rolling it into a sort of sausage shape there, and then I'm starting to work it into the mold. I'm using my thumbs to push out the excess clay, then flexing the mold and gently pulling it out. There's also a sweet little bow design down the bottom there, so I'm going to work my clay into that, and I'm going to cast 3 of those and 3 of the greenery that we just did. I'm then going to start gluing down my mold, so I'm going to put 3 of the greenery design around the base of the bell, and I'm making sure that each one of these is sort of connecting up. And then once I have all of those pieces glued down, I'm then going to add glue to the back of each of the little bows. I'm gluing the bows down at the transition where each of the greenery molds meet. I'll be repeating the same process on the other bell that I prepared and leaving it for 24 hours to dry. Next, I'm going to be painting each of these bells with Dixie Belle's buttercream. I'm brushing the paint on and really working it into the molds down below as well. I'm still being pretty gentle though. I don't want to disturb any of those even though they are completely dry. And then once I'm happy with the coverage of that buttercream paint, I did end up deciding to start dabbing and stippling that paint on to minimize the brush stroke. This will also create even texture and hide any imperfections in those plastic bells. I will then, of course, paint the inside of both of the bells. It ended up taking 2 coats of this paint on each of the bells to get the coverage I wanted. Next, I'm going to seal both of my bells with Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in satin. When that was dry, I took Paint Couture's Evergreen chalk paint, and I'm using a small artist brush to go in and add that green to the greenery design down the bottom. Now there's not just greenery, there's also ornaments, there's also a ribbon that's weaving through that design. So I'm just painting the areas where the leaves are. So I'm going to work my way around and paint both of these bells at the same time, because even though we're doing 2 different designs, both of these bells do need that greenery focused on. I'm then going to take my buttercream brush that I used before. I've got rid of the excess, and now I'm doing some dry brushing over the top of one of the bells. This is going to be our more winter sort of feeling bell here. So it's going to have light colors and a real sort of frosted look to it. When that layer was dry, I took Paint Couture's Peace Mineral Paint, and I'm going in with a small artist brush and I'm painting the sweet bows that we added, and then I'm also going to be adding the same lovely grey tone to the ribbon that weaves in and out of that greenery design. So I'm going to work my way around the bell until I have all of the ribbon and bows painted in that lovely grey. When that was dry, I took Paint Couture's French Gold. This is a heavy metal metallic, and I am going in with an artist brush and I'm going over the top of the little ornaments that are in this particular mold design. And I'm going to go around until I have all of those ornaments painted in that beautiful French gold. When the gold was dry, I took Paint Couture's Stardust Heavy Metal Metallic, and I'm going in and adding that beautiful metallic to the edges of the bow, to the edges of the ribbon that weave in and out of the garland. I'm just hitting those points to add a little bit of shine, but I don't want it to be too overwhelming. Again, these paints are just gorgeous. They're so highly pigmented. Definitely one of my favorite things to use. If I've inspired you to try these Paint Couture products, I would really appreciate it if you would use my affiliate link. I will pop it in the description and on the screen. I just get a little thank you from Paint Couture in return. And right now they have a 20% off sale. Use my code Farmhouse20 to get your discount. Next, I'm going to use Paint Couture's Crackle Step 1. I'm applying it to the bell in a sort of cross-hatching motion. I'm then going to let this dry completely, which took about an hour. It will feel sticky to the touch when it's ready for Step 2, which I'm coming in with now. And I'm just repeating the same process as before, putting it down in a cross-hatching motion to create irregular cracks, and then I let this dry overnight. While the crackle was drying, I took Paint Couture's Oyster Pearl Luxe Metallic Paint and I just lightly went over some of the areas where we did our dry brushing. I really want this to look a bit like frost or snow, and this Oyster Pearl really creates a beautiful effect. When that was dry, I took my Stardust Heavy Metal Metallic paint again, and now I'm going over the top of my dry crackle. I'm really working it into all of the beautiful cracks that we created, and then once I'm happy with how they're looking, I'm going to take a wet wipe and I'm going to wipe back the excess. This is going to be a very subtle look, but I didn't want to go super antique with this and add anything dark. I still wanted this to be quite a frosted winter wonderland look. So the Stardust Metallic is looking beautiful in those cracks, and I think it's really achieving an aged look, but still quite subtle. Once that was dry, I took the same metallic and I'm just going to go around the base of the bell and add some of that metallic there. It'll just be a hint of silver peeking out underneath. I also added the same silver to the top section of our bell. When that was dry, I took out my Extreme Guard in satin again, and I'm going to use it a little bit like a glue. I'm going to add it around the base of the bell, and I'm also going to add it lightly around the middle section of the bell and a little bit heavier on the top section of the bell. I want to add some German glass glitter, so it needs something to stick to. So while that's still wet, I'm going to take my Pure Silver German Glass Glitter by Paint Couture. I haven't used this one yet, so I was excited to try it, and I'm going to take the end of a spoon and use that as a scoop to scoop out that glitter and sprinkle it on top of my wet top coat. And you can see that it's sticking nicely. I'm just using my finger to spread that out just a little bit more, and then I'm going to sprinkle it over the center part of the bell and of course the sections around the bottom where we added the top coat. After shaking off the excess glitter, I put it to one side and took out my amazing casting resin. I'm going to pour out part A and part B in equal measure and then stir it together well for about 30 seconds. And I'm going to be adding it to IOD's Cameo Mould. I'm specifically focusing on the smaller designs there. I want to create something that looks a little bit like a gem to go in the center of a ribbon that I want to add to the top of the bell. After about 10 minutes, my resin is ready and set, so I'm going to take out the pieces that I've cast. I'm only going to need two, one for this bell, one for the other. I'm then going to take the Oyster Pearl out again, Paint Couture's Luxe Metallic, and you can see I've taken this design from IOD's Cameo Mold and I'm painting the center to make it look like a pearl. And when that's dry, I'm taking that Stardust Metallic back out again and I'm adding it around the border. And it is amazing how this looks looks like little crystals. It just catches the light so beautifully. So I'm going to go around the edge of this casting until I've painted the entire border in that beautiful Stardust metallic. When that was dry, I took out some lace ribbon that I thrifted. I'm going to take out enough to make 2 loops for a bow. You can see I'm winding it around my hand. I'm pinching it in the center. I'm then taking some twine and tying a knot in the center to hold my pieces together. Once I've tied that knot and I have it secure, I'm going to cut off some more of that ribbon so that I can make the little tails for the bow. I'm then tying that to the bow with the excess twine that's on the back there, and then I am going to cut off the excess twine. And once I've done that, I'm just going to have a play and pull the sections of the bow out. I've added a little bit of glue to the center, and now we can add our little resin gem that we painted. I'm adding a bit of glue to the back of that and attaching it to our bell. I then took my scissors to cut the ends of the bow there to give it a little bit of a neater finish. And then once I've done that, I took some cord that I had from another project and I'm just attaching it to my bell with some twine. It was too thick to go through the hole that was on that bell already. So you can see I'm just tying a knot in that cord, and then I'm going to attach it to the bell with the twine. I'm going to tie a double knot and then trim off the excess. And here's our winter style bell. For our second bell, I'm going to be using Paint Couture's barn door chalk paint. You can see I've already got that evergreen paint down that we did on the first bell, and now I'm coming in with this lovely red. I know it looks pink, but it dries red into a beautiful sort of more traditional red. So I'm going to be adding that to the bows that are on the base of the bell there, and also we're going to later add that to the ribbon that weaves in and out of the design. So you can see here when it's dry it is a red tone. I'm then going to take Paint Couture's Amazon Luxe Metallic paint and I'm going to go over the top of that evergreen chalk paint that we added. It's going to give it a beautiful shine. So with this particular bell, I definitely went a little bit more traditional using reds, greens and golds. I definitely tried to stick to that more traditional look for this one, just to give you guys another example of how you could decorate a bell if perhaps this was more your style. Once the Amazon metallic was dry, I took some more of that barn door, and now I'm going in and adding that beautiful red to the ribbon that's winding in and out of the greenery. Once my red is completely dry, I wanted to try adding some of Paint Couture's Berry Rouge Luxe Metallic. I added it over the top of the dry red paint, and although it was absolutely beautiful, it just didn't really tie in great with the more traditional Christmas I was going for. I felt like it looked a little bit more pink, so I had a bit of a think about it, moved on and added some of Paint Couture's Gold Mine to my brush, and now I'm adding it to the ornaments that are scattered in amongst this garland. And even now as I'm adding it, I love the shine that that metallic gave, that Berry Rouge, but it definitely felt more pink, so it didn't sit right with me. I wanted to go traditional with this bell, so after I'd finished adding the ornaments, I did go back in with that barn door red over the top of the Berry Rouge. You're still going to see hints of that metallic around the edges, but I definitely wanted to go back to the red tone as opposed to the pink. So always keep this in mind when you're doing a project. You can always go back in and layer a paint over the top. You've never ruined anything. You can always go back in with another coat. I can definitely see myself using that beautiful Berry Rouge metallic on Valentine's Day projects. When that was dry, I took Paint Couture's Crackle Step 1, and just like in the first bell project, I'm applying it in a sort of cross-hatching motion, letting it dry for about an hour. And then once it has become sticky, I'm able to come in with Crackle Step 2, and I'm going to apply it in a very similar fashion, going over the top of Step 1 in a cross-hatching motion, and then I let this one dry overnight as well. The next day I came in with Paint Couture's Van Dyke Brown Glaze. I'm applying it with a paintbrush and really working it into all of those beautiful cracks that we created. And then once I'm happy with that particular section, I'm going to take a baby wipe and I'm going to wipe back the excess so that we just leave the glaze sitting in those cracks. I also ended up adding a little bit of that glaze to the sections down the bottom just to tie the tones together a little bit. I wasn't too heavy with it though, and I did come in with a wet wipe to wipe back the excess. When that was dry, I came in with Paint Couture's Antique Gold Luxe Metallic, and I'm going to go around and focus on the edges of the bow and also on some of the ribbon that's weaving in and out of the garland. I wanted a hint of shine here, and I really love this antique gold tone. I just think it is just so classic and beautiful, so I'm not going in too heavy. I just want hints of it here and there. As I was applying this beautiful gold, I decided to layer a little bit of the antique gold over the top of the gold mine metallic so you can still see the gold mine underneath, but I really liked the layered effect that this gave. I also added it to the top section of the bell. I then also decided to add a little bit of that gold just on the base of the bell, just so there was a hint of that gold peeking underneath. I then took that same antique gold and added it to the little casting that we created from the cameo mold, and I'm going to be painting this entire piece with that antique gold, and it did take about 1.5 coats to get the coverage that I wanted. Next, I'm going to take some ribbon that I got from Spotlight Australia, and I'm going to cut a length of it, and I'm going to pull the two end pieces in together so that I have a loop on either side for a bow. So I'm just applying some glue in the center there, and then another little dab of glue there to hold the other piece in the center. I then cut another length of ribbon for the tails of the ribbon design. I then took a little bit more glue and I'm just sort of pinching the center section of the bow together, and then I did take another smaller length of ribbon to wrap around the center to tidy up how that looked. I then added some glue to the back of our resin casting and glued that into the center of the bow, and then I glued the tail ends there and the bow up the top of our bell. I used my scissors to cut and tidy up the ends of our bow tails there, and then once I had done that, I took some gold cord from the bells originally, so this came with the bells. I just tied a knot in the end of it, and that's going to be what we can hang our bell from. And here's our finished traditional Christmas bell. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and share it out. This is my last Christmas video for 2023. I want to say thank you so much for your support and also wish you a Merry Christmas. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can find the products used today on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.